All right, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to show you how to draft a wheel such as this one for your car projects. So, to draft this thing, you can be working in Fusion 360 browser mode again if you'd like. You would not be able to create any dimensioned drawings inside of that, but that would be for a later date. That would not be to just get the part on its own. So let's go ahead and start this thing. I'm going to go File, New Design to create a new design up on here. It will still be adding these things in my POE folder. You can see I've made a couple of attempts there, even made a screencast before I found out that I didn't have the sound on. It's been a good day. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new sketch. Click on that XY plane because I'm happy and comfortable in my XY land. And I'm going to go ahead and select that circle because I want a round wheel. I'm not very creative like that. I want my round wheel to be ish 175 millimeters across. Okay. Now make sure you are working in millimeters. You can come up here to this little tab and make sure your units are millimeters. Otherwise, it will not be dimensionally accurate on my 3D printers. I'm going to finish the sketch and then I'm going to come up here to the extrude button. I'm going to select that, sketch to extrude, and yeah, that one. Pull the arrow up a scotch. I don't want it to be 25. I want it to be like 5. Creating a new body. I like it. Let's do this. All right, so that's boring. You got a disc. Congratulations. All right, so now we're going to create a new sketch here. And this is where we're going to have our axle hole going through. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and create a square axle that will fit our VEX components. So I did that center rectangle right there. Yeah, that one. And so what I can do is I can go ahead and select the origin again, that center point. And now I'm going to type in 0.127 inches. Okay. And I'm picking that number because the VEX parts are 1/8 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch, which is 125. I want to make sure that I can get the thing through there. And a little bit of hot glue will definitely hold it in place. So then I'm going to hit tab and I'm going to hit 0.127 IN again. And it's going to recognize that I want 0.127 inches, but it's going to happily convert that to millimeters for me because we're working in millimeters. I'm going to finish the sketch and then I'm going to extrude that hole again. So you got to be careful of what you're clicking on. Over here, the disk is highlighted. Now the hole is highlighted, that square that I want. And it's easiest if I hold shift and your center mouse, and then you can see as I take it up, I can see this little arrow thing. And if I pull that down, it pulls this to cut. And instead of extending it for a distance, I want it to be all the way through the object. That way, regardless of how thick I make this object, if I come back later and change that, that hole will always go all the way through it. Okay, happy days. Now what I want to do is I want to put like a pattern going around this thing that is actually going to be like the spokes of my wheels. So I need to figure out what kind of cutouts I want. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up an outside perimeter. Picked my circle, selecting the origin of this thing again. And what did I say? 175. I want to go 160 millimeters. So that means I'm going to have a 15 millimeter rim around the outside. Cool. Got it. Now on inner circle, I want that to be, we'll go with 25 millimeters. Cool. Now I got that. Now what I want to do is I want to come up here and get my line tool. And I want to come clicking from the origin. I want to go straight up and click right there. Okay. I want to do that again, coming over here. And I want to make sure that I'm clicking when I get that little blue X there. All right. Now, what I want to do is I want to dimension the arc, the distance between those two. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I want to be a 20-degree angle. Okay. You can put it at 15, 20. I just recommend you that you make sure it divides into 360 degrees evenly. because we're going to put a ray or a circular pattern around that thing. I now want to modify this because I don't want this outer part of the circle. I don't need all of these lines in their full extent. So I'm just going to start clipping away and cutting away lines I don't need and don't want. Okay, so now I'm left with this shape, right? Now I want to go ahead and extrude that. So I'm going to hit E and I'm going to select that shape. Now, if you cannot select your shape, that means that you did not make a closed shape, and you need to make sure that your lines are actually intersecting where you think that they are. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and extrude that, and again, I'm going to cut that thing all the way through. Okay, looks good to me. Let's do it. All right, now that's my original, right? Cool. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a pattern now, specifically a circular pattern. I want a circular pattern of a feature. We don't want a body because that would be the whole body. We don't need a face because that would be just the face. I want the feature, and I want to make sure I'm carefully selecting the feature. Okay. Now you got to select your axis. I select the axis of the whole disk, and immediately I get this preview, okay? And I can change the number of holes that are cut very easily. So let's see, 360 divides by 20, 13 times, right? So like 7 or 8. Yeah, I go with 9. 9 holes, that should be good. And I'm going to click OK. And now I get that shape, which that looks fairly decent. They're all spread around evenly. But then if you've ever 3D printed, you know that a 90-degree angle is a nice sharp angle, right? So what I want to do is I want to adjust my original one. So you see how I just hovered over on my timeline to find the original feature? I'm going to modify this feature. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to click fillet. And I'm going to click all of the lines that represent the intersection of that side or the sides of the hole and the top and bottom of it. So I'm just selecting, and then when I want to turn the thing, I'm holding shift and the center mouse button and dragging the center mouse button around in order to get a good view of what I want to click on. Okay, so now I'm going to select a 2mm die fillet. Yeah, that looks good. That looks all right. Maybe I'll take it down to 1mm. Maybe that'll look better. That's not bad. How about 1.5? There we go. That is gorgeous. You can pick whatever fillet size you want. Whatever looks nice until it pops up with error messages. And it will pop up with error messages. So I also want to do these edges. That one, pan around by holding shift and the center mouse. And that one. And now I'm going to say, let's say a 3mm. Looks great. Maybe we'll do a 4mm. Ooh, see how it says no? Go back to 3. All right, cool. And now I'm going to do this inner one. All right, fillet that thing again. Select, hold shift, center mouse button, click that one again with my right click. And now I want to go ahead and figure out what looks nice there. 1mm, 1.5mm. I like that 1.5. Click OK. All right, so here's the thing. That only did it to that one, right? I want it to go to the rest of them. This is what this timeline is really good for down here. I want to go ahead and I want to select that pattern and I'll drag it over here. Okay, so all of my fillets have now occurred before the pattern. And so then I'm going to right click on this pattern and say edit circular pattern. And then I'm going to hold control and select here, here, and here. And you see how it changed the preview? Because now instead of having one object selected, I selected 4 now. And now I can click OK. And drum roll, please. Let's let it think. Compute, compute, compute. Yahoo! It popped up with an error message, but it also did it. Let's see what this error message is. Edit. Maybe we should cut this down to 8. 8 might work better. Okay. Yeah, if it's popping up with error messages, it means that there's something physically wrong in actually creating your object. Okay, so there's a good chance that if you actually go through and ignore it, it might not work for 3D printing. So, speaking of which, ooh, that looks neat. The way you can look down one and it goes right up the other side. Yeah, that's cool. Added bonus. All right, so that's my wheel, right? I think it'll work. I think I want an STL of it. So, what I need to now do is file, save, and you should call that something creative, something that is memorable, something that you won't forget, such as wheel underscore your initials underscore a number, such as number one if that's your first version. And then click save. And it's going to pop up with that name, right? Cool. Now we want to go file, export, and we want to make sure you're exporting as an STL file. That's stereolithograph for those that care. That file I can 3D print. And looking at this location where it says see users downloads, that tells us where it's going to spit that file back into our computer. So since Fusion has to use the cloud in order to do that, it's going to go ahead, communicate with the servers elsewhere, get us our file, and send it back to us. It's going to automatically download, and it'll give us a nice little message when it's done. Okay, so you can continue working while that's working. Any changes that you make to it now are not going to be reflected in that STL. You'll have to make another STL, but you'll have to upload that STL to me in order to 3D print it. All right, so hopefully this is helpful. Hey, look at that. Show and Explorer. And boom, there it is, right there in my downloads folder. So that's where it showed up for mine. Hopefully that's where it'll show up for yours. If not, figure it out. Find out where it's at. Ask me if you need some help. Otherwise, take care.